Hello. This is a new film for A Bit Lit entitled Artless Leadership, and I'll come back to that phrase in a minute. A Bit Lit was founded in response to the UK going into lockdown when COVID first emerged in the spring of 2020. And in the last 6 months, we've made nearly 100 films which engage with the issue of a passion for research and for creativity and for education. And our name, A Bit Lit, is meant to evoke that passion, that idea that we're a little bit off our heads with excitement about these particular things, but also to ask about where literature and artistic creativity more generally sits within the world around us. What does it mean to be a bit lit? And that question feels especially important at the moment, because I do think we are facing an attitude to artistic creativity which is defined by artless leadership. Leadership which doesn't value and doesn't understand artistic creativity and doesn't understand the world of education. And I would suggest is a little bit threatened by those worlds, precisely because they ask us to think about what politicians and other kinds of leaders are telling us. It's long been a very conservative way to think about the arts, to think of it as something safe, soft, fun, an added extra, unimportant to the side of life, and not the real world. And certainly artistic creativity has really come under threat as a result of COVID, and not necessarily just as a result of COVID, but COVID has opened up possibilities for leaders of various kinds to allow the artistic worlds to start to fail. And yet it's been central to the way we've survived this year's challenges. Whenever we turn on the television, whenever we look on the internet, whenever we communicate with each other in real life or through online catch-ups, we tell each other stories, we engage with stories, and we use fictional, but also non-fictional kinds of storytelling to survive. And so far from being this kind of safe and unimportant thing that we're often told the artistic world is, art is important precisely because it imagines the world differently. And by doing that, engages with a very live critique with the way that life and decision-making are happening now. And as I hope I'm making clear, I'm pretty suspicious of all kinds of boundaries, the way that literature gets boxed in, for example. And another kind of boundary is this idea that science and art are different things. Science is also an art. It also imagines the world differently. Scientists who are trying to work out ways to deal with COVID, for example, are imagining a world in which COVID either doesn't exist or is a more manageable thing. And science too is a kind of art. And these things speak to each other far more than we are often led to assume. I'm also speaking at a moment when the UK university sector is in real crisis. And it's very clear now that various kinds of leaders are happy to watch the artistic side of university life shrinking. And that, I think, is a real problem for what is happening right now. The UK government is also, I think, very happy to watch the UK sector as a whole start to shrink. And certainly, speaking as someone who works at the University of Roehampton, where I'm fiercely proud to speak to students who have no family background of higher education, who are the first people from their families to go to university, those students are so exciting to engage with, to listen to, and to learn from. I absolutely love working with them, and I'm heartbroken to watch the way in which the government, which for the last 10 years, I think, has been trying to make life difficult for universities which face students with no family background of higher education. I'm heartbroken to watch the government, after those 10 years, finally seem to be getting its way. This morning, the Royal Society for Arts, Manufacturers and Commerce has published a report suggesting that the last 6 months has really sped up the way in which our lives are going online and our lives are becoming technological and digital, and has suggested that the really safe jobs of the future are precisely the artistic ones, which require human engagement and activity and critique, crucially critique. And I think we need to keep remembering that it is very convenient for governments, particularly I think governments to the right, to discourage people from thinking and actively critiquing what they see around them. And the great value of research-based learning is that we are always thinking about the world differently, critiquing the way life and decisions are happening now. So I'm making this brief film with a plea that we think again about where the arts sit. We become very suspicious of the artless leadership with which we're being confronted in various countries and across various parts of the political and social world that we inhabit, and that we think about being a bit lit about art, about being enthusiastic, passionate, and that we think about fighting for the spaces of art that are so crucial for the way humans live and imagine new worlds.